Vaccination of cattle is well underway here at Rysmierbult, where Minister of Agriculture in the country, John Steenhuisen, is overseeing the whole process of vaccinating the cattle amid the outbreak of foot and mouth disease. As you'll remember that vaccine doses arrived here in the country recently, and this vaccination program started a few months ago. And you'll remember that here in the Northwest Province there are about 26 outbreaks currently as we speak. And earlier on, some farmers telling the minister that they are concerned about this situation because they are unable to sell their livestock because of this foot and mouth disease. But in a moment I'll bring the minister to our conversation just to talk to him about this process and why is he here in the province, and also how is the country doing as far as fighting foot and mouth disease is concerned. Minister, thank you very much for joining us here on SABC News. Let us start here. How is the process so far with regard to fighting foot and mouth disease in the country?
The process from government side, we're doing everything that we can. We've procured nearly 1 million vaccines. They've arrived in South Africa. We're rolling out a vaccination program in the affected provinces with a particular focus on KwaZulu-Natal, Gauteng, and of course the Northwest Province. We have 274 live cases around the country, and obviously we need to get on top of this because it's causing huge uncertainty and economic harm to the red meat sector, and that is why it is here today to twofold, meet with the community and understand their concerns. And this is a particular interesting place because it's a communal herd, and when we make policy and decisions in our offices in Pretoria, we need to understand the context of what's actually happening on the ground and the concerns. So it was important for me to come and listen to some of those concerns, to allay some of the fears, but then also to take some homework away with me to work on a few things to see if we can make it easier to encourage more people to vaccinate their animals so we can get on top of foot and mouth.
And are you happy so far with regard to how the vaccination program is going? Actually, in general, the fight against the disease, how is it going? The progress that you are registering as a country?
Yeah, I'm happy, but I'm still very concerned that there are still people moving animals illegally around the country out of foot and mouth disease areas into other areas, and that's making the fight against this a lot harder. We have speculators, there are auction houses, there are transport companies, there are farmers and speculators that are involved in moving animals around or not doing the due diligence on animals. And we need to make absolutely sure that the law is being adhered to. Obviously, we are constrained. We have to rely on the SAPS and traffic services at a municipal and provincial level to help us with animal movement. But I'm very pleased with the vaccination rollout. We've procured vaccines, and we're going to procure more. But I believe that the pathway, as a result of the indaba that we had with industry, with government, with scientists and veterinarians, we now have a pathway that's going to eventually lead to us becoming a FMD-free country, and that will then really unlock the potential for the livestock sector, particularly here in communal areas where people will be able to realize real value for the animals that they produce.
And how many doses are you intending to buy?
Well, we've bought nearly 1 million now. We'll buy what's ever needed. Obviously, we'd also like to keep a small stock so that we don't have to procure again if there's an issue. And then in the first quarter of next year, we're hoping that the ARC will be able to come online with production of our own locally manufactured vaccine, which means we don't then have to go through Botswana anymore. We'll be able to procure our own, manufacture our own here, and then meet our own needs, and then potentially sell to the rest of the continent. But that will give us an inbuilt ability to ensure that we always have our own supply of vaccines here in South Africa.
And earlier on, you engaged with some farmers here, and they were, complaining about not being able to sell their cattle due to foot and mouth disease. In that instance, how do you support farmers like this who are, struggling to make ends meet because they can't sell their cattle?
So what we provide vaccination free of charge, first of all. Secondly, we're looking at creating local value with FMD approved abattoirs. There's an application now for 3 of them here in the Northwest Province. We already have 1 that's accredited. And And once that happens, it makes it easier for the animals to be slaughtered. Remember, there's nothing wrong with the meat. As soon as the animal is slaughtered and its body temperature drops and its pH drops, the virus disappears. So there's nothing wrong with the meat. It can't transmit to humans. So they should be able to realize the value of the meat. The big issue is transportation to a much further place. So if we can get an abattoir closer to the FMD outbreak zone that's then accredited, we're able to then make sure they're realizing full value and disincentivizing people to move animals in an unlawful manner.
And just in closing, Minister, I know you might have answered this question partly, but maybe just expand more on the effect or the impact of foot and mouth disease. What is the impact?
So it has a huge economic impact. It essentially means that outside of the FMD free zones of the Northern Cape and the Western Cape, we cannot export beef to other countries. And this is a huge opportunity for us if we can get on top of foot and mouth disease. Many of these countries have now said they are willing to open up their markets with vaccination and track and traceability. So I see vaccination as a pathway to us being able to reopen these markets. Brazil, for instance, had some of their best years of exports of beef while they were undergoing their mass vaccination program. So the economic damage it does is that if we have uncontrolled outbreaks, it prevents dairy farmers, it prevents communal farmers and commercial farmers from being able to move cattle, and it obviously affects their business. And then finally, ultimately the price ends up with the consumer. Like anything, it's supply and demand. When the supply is curtailed, when you have to have quarantines and restrictions, the prices go up, and I think we've seen that in our supermarkets and shops, and our meat has gone up. And we hope that once we get a river of vaccinated animals back out into the supplier, we'll be able to start to see the price going down.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
That's the Minister of Agriculture, John Steenhuisen, concluding there by talking to us about the impact of foot and mouth disease.